Hello, everybody, and welcome back to week 7. Boy, we've gotten through quite a lot of stuff here so far, but this week we're going to start with rotoscoping in DaVinci up here, and I've chosen this in lieu of some of the last assignments in the other introduction to Fusion things because they cover it better, and it's just a more specialized thing. There is, however, on this list, a couple of classes we won't be doing. So let's come down and talk about that here real quick. So here, introduction, color power windows, and color tracking. The introduction is something that doesn't need to be done because, well, we're going to do that ourselves. These two were specifically in the color grading tab and not completely necessary to what we are doing. We're working in the Fusion tab specifically here. And this week we are specifically working with, well, I shouldn't say this week. We're going to do more than one class this week, but this class is specifically for rotoscoping, masking, and working inside the Fusion tab. So I'm going to stick very closely to that. And as we go down the other list here, masking, merge tools, custom masking, rotoscoping, all this other stuff was like the Luma mask techniques. All of this was stuff that we passed on to do a more myopic course with. And I like drilling down on this stuff because I happen to think that these are some of the most important skills that we can do here in this class with the time that we've got. Obviously, there will be a companion class to this one, which we will drill down on Fusion even harder for an entire month, actually. So that said, some housekeeping things. As you see on me here now, I'm using one light to light me in a otherwise fairly dark room, and it's a new bulb that I've got for a piece of furniture in this room, and I've got the color temperature set to 5600. And then in the background, you see a little white clock that I'm going to be using as my color drop device white balancer to do some better color balancing. I don't know if you watched the last video where I tried to balance that color with a bulb that didn't have the ability to change light temperature or the ability to do it from my phone. Every light in this room now, which there are 5 hidden sneaky lights, all have bulbs in them that we can change the color temperature, we can change the um, intensity, brightness of the light, all that stuff to create a better scene for doing this stuff. I just wish that I didn't have like my television and my bed in the background here. I'll just move that out of the way. There we go. Nothing like fixing things on the fly. Okay, so that said, let's get after it. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot, and welcome back to week 7. Glad to have you. Hey, everybody, and we are back. Like I said, we're going to skip through the first uh, couple of these, the color power windows and the color window tracking stuff was all done in the color correction tab. And we are Fusion people this week. We are Fusion rotoscoping people this week. So let me switch my big face off the screen here. And maybe I should get rid of that top cam here. We don't need that in this one now. I was just showing you guys that while we were editing. Yes. Okay, so there's just me in the corner, and we got some room to work. So first off, some housekeeping stuff here. This is, since we're not using a new, complete different database for this short video on rotoscoping, or short set of videos on rotoscoping, rather, I'm just going to come down here to the start, DRP file, DaVinci Resolve Program file, project file, excuse me, and I'm going to make a couple copies of it. So copy, paste, copy, paste, paste. So I got a couple to work from here, and the reason why I did that is it's a simple thing to take care of. I can keep my original down here unaltered and just work from the copies. And if I get myself painted into a corner, I can just delete it, make another copy of the original, and start from scratch without having to try and unthread a needle. I've noticed that you can't always go backwards in Fusion. So it's important to build yourself a little kind of a scratch file or a sandbox file, however you want to word that. So let's start over here with copy number 1. Give it a double click, and it's going to take a minute for DaVinci Resolve to come up here, which might be an excellent choice for me to maybe speed through this part. Or not. There we go, right away. So you'll notice that when I click on a DRP file, it comes right up and drops us, takes us right to it. And now we want to get relink our media. Come over here to locate. I don't know why it can't self-locate. I mean, if it came out of the same area with the DRP file, why I need to do this each time is beyond me. Maybe that's something I'll talk to the big wigs over at Blackmagic Design about. So here we are, and the important thing to remember is I'm just going to kind of go quickly over what he was talking about. So if I come over here and I put my playhead over this clip, and I come over in here into the fusion point, that's the clip that's being dealt with. That's the clip that we have, and no other clips. So when we come back here over here, for example, and we want to be dealing with this clip here, which is what the instructions say to do, and start from the very beginning. That's where we want to be and put our playhead there. I'm just saying that these are two different clips, and when we're in Fusion, we're not making the changes on anything other than the clip that you see here. Okay, so let's move this around a little bit and get to work. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the effects of masking and how that can be easily done and how it gets stacked and things like that. So let's come down here and start with up to add a tool. Go over here to color and say color corrector. So we got something to play with. And let's go over here and add some color to this guy. Okay. Let's really add some color so we can see what's happening here and what's not happening here. Now, there's a couple ways to get into some masks. We can always come over here and say, oh, bear in mind, don't forget we got a mask in here in the color corrector as well as a foreground and background uh, entry points. Okay, so I'm going to try, he's been doing this one where we come up here, we go add a tool each time, go over here to mask. It shows you the different kinds of masks. We already know all this stuff here and had us do a rectangle and come over here. And now we see that nothing's happening with this rectangle until we take it out of the out point of the rectangle and put it into the in point of the mask blue triangle. So now we see that here, and we can spin it around and do all kinds of good stuff just like we did before. And we can go back up. Never forget here that you can kind of, well, here, let me get my face out of the way. Bye. Okay, don't forget we can always come up here and click on reset here and get back to our unadulterated rectangle. So I want to try an experiment real quick. So let's Control Z this a couple of times. And we're back to color corrector. I'm going to come up here and see if it's true along this scale here. If it's stuff that we can just click on. Uh-oh, rectangle, springing out of the thing. It just came up and it put it in where I had to come and grab it out. So let's try that just to get back to where we were. There we go. Let's come back to, it's irritating to me that the home key doesn't work on that. So here we are at the rectangle now, and I think that's kind of cool that I'm going to start using this little top scale here as much as I can instead of making more movements. It's kind of an economy of movement here. So you'll notice down here that Let me just bring this in here. This is the original thing. This is the side here where so we get our views right. This is what the rectangle is doing to the color corrector, and so we see that here. Now, if we wanted the rectangle to show over here in the left screen, I think it's going to show just black is transparent, white is opaque. It's going to show us what's going to be masked later down the road. Okay, so I'm going to keep that up there for now. And what can we do with our rectangle? Well, there's all kinds of fun stuff to do with our rectangle, as we see over here under the inspector. So the first thing we can do is we can soften the edges on it. We can change the border width on things. We can always reset it, and we can do the width and all that good stuff. On the original things that we didn't look at, he used the rectangle to blur out the license plate, which was kind of cool. So one of the things also we can do with this is we can come over here and we can scoot that out of the way, and we can come up over here to our ellipse tool, and let's unclick that and see what happens when we click on just the ellipse tool. So when we do that, we get a tool that is unconnected, which is kind of what I was looking for here. So let's go ahead and connect our ellipse tool to the rectangle tool and see what happens. There you go. And we are able to move the ellipse tool in and out. We were able to move it around, and you'll notice that when these things operate together, we can click off somewhere, I believe, down here, and just to unhighlight the ellipse tool, uh, we can look at things here without the outlines on them and make some better decisions design-wise as to what we want to do without having the stuff up. So let's do one more thing. We don't have anything over here organized yet, so let's do one more ellipse tool. Okay, but let's take this ellipse tool and bring it in and kind of bring it over to the center. Okay. Now, when we were looking at the other ellipse tools over here, in fact, let's bring it and hook it up. Clink. Clink. Okay, so we got this ellipse tool over here, and it too is masking out. All right, so let's try something different here. So in all these tools down here, these first two tools here have a paint mode to them. And the paint mode for the first two tools is merge. So what you see with these two tools is they're just merged together. I mean, duh, right? So what we kind of want to try here is let's look at what our options here under the paint modes here. So we can multiply things. Multiplying things would be like that black background video mask with whatever the video shows through, but the background, everything is black with the letters on it. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I might be blathering again. But the thing I want to try here is the subtract one. So on my ellipse tool up here, we come up and you notice that there isn't that tool to do that with. So what we got to do is I got to unhook this guy. I'm going to move him over here for just a second. I'm going to move these guys up. Click. I'm going to unhook this guy. I'm going to bring him down here, and I'm going to hook him to here. And I'm going to hook him to here. Then I'm going to look at this ellipse tool. I'm going to come over here, and I got my ellipse 2. I'm going to try this merge. I'm going to try subtract. Uh-oh, look at that. Now, when I say subtract, I've created kind of an area inside that I could move around here, and there we go. Move around here and use that to maybe it might be fun maybe to make some kind of a design where some things are blurred and gouged and whatever you want to do here. So speaking of which, let's try one more thing here just for fun. And just in the kind of makeup things, I want to noise, background, text, color curves, hue curves, merge. Merge, that's a good one to know. Booleans, matte control, resize, transform, that could be a good one to know too. merge and transform should be right next to each other. Okay, well, let's just do this. Let's come here and come up to Add Tool. Okay, let's try that again here. Right click, Add Tool. Let's just come up here and throw a blur on it. Maybe a defocus. Let's try that. Let's see how it. What trouble can we get into with a defocus? Let's slip that in line here. Okay, so let's make the defocus size bigger and see what happens. Anything? Nothing? Oh, that's because we're not looking at it. Duh. Or are we? Let's maybe try looking at it from over here. Now we'll come back over and look at the defocus. Hmm. Okay, I'm going to put this on pause for a minute and sort out why we're not seeing this correctly. Okay, back in a second. Okay, mystery kind of managed, but I don't understand it. So when you saw me bring the defocus from out here, I don't know if this is just something I'm doing wrong. Blur, defocus, and I tried to pop it in down here. And then I came up here and tried to change things around a little bit. Nothing happened. I don't understand that at all. But when I, let's just delete this and I come down here and I get the uh, line blue and then I insert that again, blur, defocus, and then I play around with the defocus size. It works just fine. Okay, so let's leave it defocused here a little bit and see what happens when we mess around with this a little bit. So I'm going to move these over here just so that we can. Let's see what happens when we connect this one to the defocus just for fun. Now that's interesting. So the entire stack through here has been defocused, including the hole we made in it, and everything else around it is fine. So you remember when I was talking about the circuitry of things on a like a printed circuit board here, where even the simplest kind of circle always has to happen by the time when you get back to here. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. And that was some experimental stuff that in here that wasn't really in the lesson at all. I'm going to start using these whenever I can. It's just that just makes sense to me to make life as simple as I can to myself. I wish there were some hotkeys so that I could do all of this without uh, being, I can with this is about all I can do here when I'm moving the car down the thing here. That's fine. But what I can't do is I can't use my home key to get back to the 0, which is a little irritating here, especially for the expense of these keyboards, which is nothing to compare to the expense of when we start the color correction stuff. I'm going to start looking into the keyboard that's meant specifically for color correction. All right, so that's it for now, kids. That's all you get for $5 as usual. We'll see you in the next one, and thank you for watching very much. I sure do appreciate you. Have a good one. Okay, here we are. We are back, and we are killing it already over here on lesson 5 using masks with merge tools, and this was just a little shorty thing. Basically, let's start by getting my big mug out of here, okay? And then let's come back over here to where we were working. And so it's basically he was just talking about wiring of stuff here. And so let's kind of move things around where that makes a little bit of sense here. So if we were to this in this configuration, it could be easily thought that it's redundant here. But if we were to take out the color correction and think that that's going to happen just downstream here, which is exactly what these arrows point to. You can see where these arrows go. They'll lead to media out. In fact, you know what? I've got everything all bunched up here. Let's just move it around a little bit. You'll note too that All my things snap to the grid, and I think that you can come up over here into Fusion and say Fusion settings and say a bunch of things about how you want the flow to operate. So, yes, I want things to snap to the grid wherever that got to. That's here somewhere. Come on, where'd it go? Range to grid. There we go. And I don't want it to do range to connection, and I'm not all that fond about the auto arranging thing. And then you're somewhere here where you can file form frame format, defaults, explains. Nah. There's a way here to put this. I think maybe maybe even just a simple right click. Scale options. Yeah, here we go. Build flow horizontally and say orthogonal pipes, and that just means they make these nice little corners here. Okay, so and that seems to really kind of work for me and how I think about stuff. So as we were saying, I'm sorry. One could be forgiven for thinking that if you took this out and just put the flow in through the defocus, that everything that we have here in line would be exactly the same since you had all that. But watch what happens. So when you took the color correction out of the thing, you get the color correction on everything. Yet you can kind of see the defocus here. Let's make that more prevalent. You can really see where you can still see where it's clear and where it's not. So that thing still exists. So let's hook that back up. And the opposite is, or the same is true with the defocusing. Once we take that out, everything's defocused. So it's important to understand that when it's wired like this, that you have all of the uh, things separated for what they're meant to do. So if you want that to be these masks to be happening for these things, then they have to be corrected. So I'm going to try something here just for fun using a merge. And let's see if I get this correct here. So let's first take this off of here. Then we'll take this off of here too. We'll take that off of there. Okay. Maybe move this stuff up a little bit and this stuff over a touch. Okay. So we have our color correction into that. So let's remember I'm just going to try and do this. So here's a merge. There's nothing highlighted, so let's put a merge in. That merge came in right where we were going to do that. So let's unhook this. Oops, sorry. Let's unhook that and put that in here. Not what I wanted to do. All right, well, let's do this first. So let's put this into the foreground, okay? And let's put this into the background. Oops, come on. Now let's put these into the mask portion of things. And then let's hook that out to up to media out and see what we get. Hmm. Hmm. Do I have all my clips? I do. What have I done wrong here? Okay, it looks like it's time for a pause and for me to figure out what's happening. Let me just try one thing real quick. Let's unhook this and unhook this and then see and then unhook that. Okay, we don't want that there. We want to try the merge here and this here, this here, and see how that works. Still, I'm not getting anything. No love from that. Okay, time for some pausing, and I'll be right back to get this sorted out for you. Okay, so that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and that was my rule about circuitry. If you look at here, what is actually out of the circle here? In order for all these things to do their job, they may merge into this, but they have to have something to work with. So let's close the circuit by bringing this up here, and we will have just figured all that out. So come down here, get rid of it. I don't know why it's still... Okay, so that's there. So now let's bring it up because we have an accurate happening of what's going on in our left monitor over here under the media out. So let's bring this up here, connect it, clink, and there you go. So we have uh, figured this out. So now there's another interesting thing that can happen here too. Just I had these two backwards, and that was kind of cool because I had where everything else was red, and just this part was the uh, was being shown without the red. So I'm going to remember that changing the foreground and the background here is an easily done thing, and that might come in handy for something creative down the road a little bit. So that's kind of this could be a little cleaner. But again, here we are using our merge right out of the speed ramp here. Uh, I guess they figured that you already got a hold of your mouse. Polygon, R-spline. I'm really looking forward to trying all this stuff out here. 3D stuff, I don't know if I'm gonna. Looks like you can add stuff to it. Okay, very cool. All right, something for as we go along. So we will see you in the next one. And thanks for hanging in there with me. And sorry about the pause. And but that's just a learning thing. So it's just a learning thing. I'll have to make that my catchphrase. All right, see you guys in the next one. Thanks again. All right, good morning, happy Tuesday, and welcome back to Rotoscoping. Today, we're going to come over here to lesson 6 and make us a couple of custom masks to change the color on that car we were working on yesterday. So let me get my big mug out of here and just get all of that going. Come down here and boom, here we are. We're all set up and ready to go here. So the idea of this exercise here is we're going to use a couple of different types of masks. First off, we're going to come over here to our color corrector and turn the whole thing blue. And then we're going to use some masks that'll go in and go around the paint of the car to turn just the paint of the car blue. And then as a finishing touch here, we're going to do a different kind of mask, and we're going to rule out this license plate with a different kind of mask. We get the first kind of mask we're going to use is the good old polygon tool. We love that. And the second tool is kind of a new one to me called B-spline. And I played with it a little bit here because this is not my first take of this. I'm having kind of a rough morning. So let's just get after it and see how we can get going. And if I can actually get through this. So I'm going to double click on color correction. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn this kind of a nice blue here where we really know the difference. Also, this blue will kind of show us the difference really nicely when we come up here and let's first off deselect color correction by clicking anywhere, and we're going to add our polygon tool here, click, and we're going to come over here. Sorry, give me a little trouble. Hook that up with our merge tool and start viewing over here. Really? Merge tool maybe? There we go. Sorry about that. So I'm going to scoot things around a little bit where we got some room to work. Now on this side here, we can bring the polygon tool up, and so this is the alpha channel view of this. So we've got merge or media out as the main channel view of this with our color corrector in there. Yeah, let's do that for starters. and see how our polygon tool affects things like that for doing our mask. So I'm going to bring this over and make us some room to work on. We haven't lost all of our room to work already. There we go. Okay, so polygon tool. When we come over here, I can move around within inside this by the pressing down on the mouse wheel, since this is a Windows machine, and I can zoom in or zoom out by pressing down on the control key and getting here where I can get this really accurate. But with the polygon tool, and I'm just going to show you a couple of things, and then I'm going to pause it, and then I'm going to show you a couple of refinements, and then I'm going to pause it again. Otherwise, this is going to be a really long video for you, and trying to respect your time. So let's start here on the corner. Come over to this corner. Come over to the middle. Come over to this corner where it meets the headlight. Come over to this corner here. I'm going to come down to the door handle. Move it along. You see where the road's being kind of reflected off of the paint here. So I think I'm going to get rid of the road reflection while I'm doing this, and just stick to the paint that we can really see. And all these points that we're making here, we're going to come back and move these around so that they fit the curvature of things really nicely. And since we're not going to be all the way up on the color correction stuff, move that here, make one here. Okay, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to finish this off, and I'm going to get started on the detail work with the polygon tool here and show you that. So bear with me. I'll be back in just a minute with a finished product, or at least a halfway finished product. Okay, so we got that worked out. So we can now see the color that's within the car here ourselves. So let's get taken care of making these lines nice and soft around here. Let's start on this side. Grab this adjuster and move that along there. Come here, that's why I put one in the middle here too. Bring that out. So don't forget, we don't want to move both of these. So we got to hit control before we move the second one. Otherwise, you get a weirdo seesaw thing going on, and we don't want that. So we'll move that kind of there. And over here, we have a little bit of a mess. So let's start with this one and move that out a little bit around the headlight. And the same here. Bring that in just a touch. Okay. Moving down the line. So we have this. You notice the little yellow guys that come out? We have this one to bring out and trace along the line. Actually, let's undo that. That's not what I was trying to do here. I'm trying to get a hold of his adjuster. There we go. Then that follows the contour pretty nicely, and then get a hold of his adjuster. One more time. So I really want this to turn out to be a nice mask. So in lieu of making you sit all the way through, me going through bit by bit of each one of these adjustments, I think it's pretty clear what I'm doing here. Um, I'm just going to hit pause. Oops, don't want to do that. I'm going to hit pause. This is fairly painstaking. There's no reason you need to suffer through all this. Okay, I'll be back with the finished product here when you in the blink of an eye. Okay, so we're back. Let me zoom out here a little bit and move this around. And I'd say we got a pretty solid mask on this guy. I mean, if we look over here, maybe zoom in on this guy a little bit here where we can really see the details of what's going on here. Maybe zoom out on this one a touch. So we've got our first thing covered, excuse me. And I'm going to bring this back up here for a second and come over here and double click on the polygon. So double clicking these things, by the way, automatically brings up their inspector stuff. So that's not something you have to go up to and hit the inspector each time. So what are we concerned about now at the moment? We are concerned about the polygon and here as to what's going on. We're missing on the polygon here, we're missing maybe over here on the merge, we're not missing it. So we're ordinarily right down here should be a paint box. Uh, so I'm still having trouble figuring out why, when this shows up and why it shows up or why not. Uh, I'm going to fool around with this for a second and see if I can't get this to go. So bear with me for the pause. Okay, I'm back and I'm developing a theory that since there's nothing to, I already have a color into here, so I've already told this polygon what it needs to do. It needs to bring this color in to the merge. So it's not giving us the opportunity to have that other marker that I'm looking for. So let's click, see, I've got polygon highlighted, so let's try to use that for a change. And I've got the merge going here, so what we are seeing is we're seeing in this window, we're seeing the merge. And I don't have anything open over here for this guy. I did have the alpha channel open. So let's just click here and see what happens. So what it did is it put the B-spline, which is a different way of masking things, in between the polygon and the merge. And it has the paint mode that I'm looking for because it really hasn't been told to do anything yet. So let's come down here and do a quick demonstration of what that is going to look like. So I'm going to make this nice and big and easy to work on. So we got our B-spline going. So here's the quick definition of a B-spline. 1, 2, 3, 4, and close. And so the B-spline is here, as you see the circle around this. If I were to come over here to the circle and say subtract, what has it done? It has subtracted what's in that circle. Is this really an acceptable thing to, if I'm going to just kind of not paint the license plate, as if I were to say? No, that's really not an acceptable piece of work at all, but you guys get the idea. And most importantly, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to kind of zoom on this, in on this even a little bit more. I'm still going to use the B spline, but we're going to do it with some detail in mind because we're going to, this is actually kind of a cool thing here. And maybe a little bit easier for some. I'm just kind of experimenting too here along what I can get away with and what I can't. The idea of this is it's a little bit faster to work with. Okay, so we can see that we've got the red around there and we can see that we still have our points to control it. We have enough points to kind of control it a little better and not by really messing around with the tails. We're just messing around with the markers here and moving those. Get yeah, it's starting to come together. Put that in a little bit. I just zoom in on that. But more, it looks like I've kind of created myself a mess here. So there we go. I think let's highlight that marker and delete it. Move him up a touch. Yeah, that's really starting to come together a little bit nicer. Move that over. What would go good here? Maybe another marker we could move into touch. Now I'm starting to make a bunch of markers I don't need. Delete. Let's move down the line a little bit here. Yeah, and you got to be really, I keep making the same mistake here. You got to really make sure that your marker turns white before you move it. Otherwise, uh, you wind up making another one, and that's not ideal. Did we use another marker here? I think so. See, I missed that. And I think after I've done this a dozen times now, I'm kind of getting a little shaky about, oh, see, again, I missed it again. I don't want to do a nice job on this and get used to using it. That's the other thing here. See, I did this one first corner pretty perfectly. So what did I do here? I had three markers. One, two, three. In, middle, out. Let's look down here. Do I have that here? In, middle. I did not. Maybe if I move him down here, that'll work a little better. And it is. In, middle, out. Okay, let's move down here. See, I've just created another one. Okay, well, I'm going to call that as good as it's going to get here. Now, let's, with our paint mode, let's go over here to merge and say subtract. And boom, there we've got a barely decently masked license plate. I would have liked to have done a better job on that. In fact, let's bring this all the way out and see what it looks like here. Now that we have no longer have a Hunter's Green Porsche 911, we have a blue one. Bring that down so we can see everything. Come on. And then click on the side of it here to get everything out. So not bad. If we were going to show the polygon here and show everything that we've done, we can click here. And I think that should show, yeah, I see it shows the both masks. It shows the subtract and it shows the color mask here. And yeah. Okay, so that's it for this one. Sorry this took so long. I wound up shooting this like 4 times, so you would have thought I was getting better at it, but I was actually getting worse. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great one. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome back to working in the Fusion page here. We're rotoscoping, and we're over here on lesson 7 now. And let me just get my face off of here. And I'm going to bring up where I've got to so far. So I went a long way out of my way while we were over here in on frame 1, frame 0, frame 1, to do a pretty top-notch job of masking the car here. So I've got everything kind of pulled down and out of the way, but just as a kind of a uh, quick recap here, we're working with the polygon, and what we're trying to do is we're going to rotoscope animate this mask as we go through on along down the timeline here. So let me just play this real quick for you, if it will play. So we see when we get over here how the mask is coming away from the car. Maybe I should just move it down here. How the mask is moving away from the car. But you'll notice here on 21 where the mask is really lined up with the car. That's because I've already done that one. So if we click off of this here, and you can see that the mask really fits the car nicely. Now it is over the not for nothing. It is over the license plate here, which we are going to do a different way. That's the B spline thing that we did. You know, we circled the license plate and just adjusted the points. So we're going to stick with the polygon here, and we're going to find some new and interesting ways of working with that as we're animating it, which is basically the definition of rotoscoping. So let me get zoomed in here. Where are we at? So one of the things that he recommended or that he pointed out, you can do this little by little. So if you wanted to go along 1, 2, 3, frame by frame or every 4 frames or what have you here, that was one way of doing it. Another way of doing it was to whatever your amount of frames are from beginning to end, to cut that in half and then to update that mask and then to cut it in half again on either side and update that again. So I'm over here on 21, and I have uh, updated this, and I was just going to come down here and split that in half to come around 10 or 11, and then update this mask. I don't think I'm too far out of whack here, so I'm going to zoom in and take a close look here and just go around the car and see where we are with everything. Then I'm going to show you some new stuff in the meantime. Maybe what we should do is, let's go over here. See where we start getting out of whack here? So that's about halfway down to the final mask here. If we came over here and did the final mask, might not be a bad thing. You come over here to 49. Let's zoom out a little bit and show you a couple of the tricks of the trade here. So I've done 21. We're going to come over here to the very tail end here. I don't know if I can get that to come over anymore or not. I think that's it. And we could go along here and move while it's in this mode here. You see, you come up here and you hold your mouse over that. So this allows us to insert a point, and this allows us just to move the mask parameters around and around. So that's what the mistake I was making the other day when I kept accidentally adding new uh, points along that mask. Is I had it in the wrong mode. And then another thing we're going to try here is we're going to do the shape box thing. And in fact, we're going to start with that because that was a nice way of getting a lot of work done in a big hurry. So let's start by going over here and highlighting all the points with the uh, kind of, what do they call that? A marquee. That's what they call that. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to set our shape box. Now we can do a lot of cool stuff with a shape box in a pretty big hurry. So we can move the entire side of something like that and like this and like this. Probably move this down and out of the way a little bit more. I'm going to guess that's about right. This up and kind of over there. See, our mask is kind of starting to kind of come together nicely. So now that we've done this, we can come out of this mode here, get rid of the mask, and then just come back and make up. Uh, let's bring this down here. Where do we really need to fix things here? So let's zoom in. We need to get our headlight a little better. So let's highlight this guy. And don't forget when we are working on our little guys here that we have to hold the control button down. And otherwise it seesaws and we do the whole thing at once, and that's not what we want to do. So let's make sure that we're over here in modify only. Okay, looking better. Let's come along the side here. So we got a little work to do over here. I'm just going to move the whole thing up. Straighten that out just a touch. Okay, let's come down the side here. So mine may not be exactly perfect, but it gives you an idea because we're not going to do this uh, mostly off screen here. I'll go back through and tidy things up before we call it a day on this because I'd really like to learn how to do this really well. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, this is the last one in the leg here, so I don't think it matters if we're that far. Whoops. We're that far out of whack. Just move this down here. Feel like Bob Ross here all of a sudden. And another happy little connection point. Okay, so that's the last of the masking here for this. Uh, Now, like we mentioned on the last thing, there were some other things up here we can do that they mentioned in this as well, soft edge and border width and stuff like that. In this case, probably not a great idea. I screwed around with it a little bit and it looked terrible. So spending a little bit of extra time here is kind of where that's at. And so let's zoom out. Uh, and come up off of our thing and go back to the beginning and just see where we're at with things, see how far out of kilter we are. I have a feeling it's not as bad as we think. There's a little bit there. Okay, so, it's a different thing when we come up here. So right about as we come over the hill here, we should start fixing that front end, say at 26, maybe 27. Which strangely works a little bit into the split it in half kind of theory. Okay, let's zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, let's marquee these guys. I've done him. Scoot it over a touch. Get these guys down and out of the way. Yeah, nicely that worked out, kind of one fell swoop type of thing. And let's move this guy down front here. I'm muttering to myself. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's zoom out now. A little bit more. Move that back up here. Back to 21 to see how we're looking. Okay, let's come up to 34 and fix the rest of this here. Same thing. Let's just get this corner down here. Move this all down at, whoops, not what I meant to do. Let's zoom in. Mm. Touchy. There we go. So a lot of work with a little amount of effort, all in one, if you're just patient enough to get through it and have it on the right settings. Okay, same thing here. Let's get through this and pull on this one. It should take care of all of them. And let's go up front and see how we're doing up there. Probably could have did a mass selection on these guys too, but okay, that's not too bad. Just for kind of a quick and dirty thing. See where we're at. Let's go down the line a little bit more. We're all out. See where we're at with things. Same thing. Come back in. Now, thankfully, with the masks here, we're going to that's good. That's pretty good. Come on. All right, not bad. Okay, so let's have a look, see if we've missed anything else. A little bit. Okay, so what have we used here so far? Let's zoom out here and talk about the tools that we've used here. We come up here. So this one was a giant help. You've noticed that I've been instead of just moving one at a time, I've been highlighting several of them at a time. We've come over here and we've done just the modify only tool. We did use the insert a point and modify that when we were doing the headlights up there. And so all of this has been kind of a handy thing. There was a couple other things that he mentioned that we could do is one, you could hit S for scale and then move your mouse around and do it, and then hit T for tilt and swing the mask from side to side or around whatever wherever it is you set it. I didn't find that as helpful in this case as using the box here. What do we call the box? The shaping box. That was a very handy piece of kit. So I think what I'm going to try and do here is uh, let's bring this into a real size and then just run down the line here and see where we're at with everything. We shouldn't be too far away from it. And let me look outside and just see how it looks. Now this is still a little rough. You see on the side here, I could probably bring that in a little bit nicer. And then the nose needs to be cleaned up a little bit. But not to spend too much time on that. Now, we did talk about in the class a second, uh, let me bring that, with the polygon brought up, it brings up the tools here. And somewhere is a thing called it says D here, but what it really is a D inside of a D. And it brings you the example that they used was, and it was a pain in the ass to do, so I wouldn't do it unless it was absolutely necessary. So they first highlighted or built a mask around the yellow lime here. Then when you hit the make double poly, it brings a second mask on top of it that has the ability to, the further you move it away from the first mask, it does give you this nice motion blur to it. So here, and up there. So it was a nice thing to know. I know it's there. And I would, that's one of those break glass in case of emergency tools that it was really fiddly and he spent a long time. It was a 12-minute video that took several watchings to get through of him mostly just fiddling around with it. So I think that's us now finishing off uh, rotoscoping, and then the next one is masking toolbar options. I think we talked about most of that already, which was the double D mask, and then up these guys up here. Uh, this and this is just we hold it over here. Show all handles and or not. That was kind of a handy thing to play with a little bit. Then show the key points or not. That was kind of a handy thing to play with. For me, that should always be on. And then there's just some other ways. What was this one again? Oh yeah, that was the manual thing where if you couldn't just touch on the dot, then you could close it that way. We haven't talked about those yet, nor have we talked about any of this stuff yet. He did. I'm lying to you. He did kind of talk about the publish points menu, and that was about coming down and coming up to the spline thing. You publish the points. You come over here to the spline, and let's twirl that back up, and maybe we can get through a couple of these here. And over here to polygon, down here to that. So this shows all or most of the points that have been used on there. And that if you publish those points, you could come down here and if you had to, you could ease the in and outs of things. But he also went on out of his way to say throughout the course of that lecture that that was not a handy thing when it came to doing the rotoscoping stuff. It was better just to do it like this and touch things up as you go. So I am keen to uh, come back and finish this here. Maybe do a couple of touch-ups along the way, and in preparations for the next lesson, which is going to be uh, we just got through 7, we got through 8, and we got through 9, and so the next lesson is going to be 10, advanced masking options. Okay, so we'll see you in for that one here in a little bit, and then I'm going to touch my little Porsche up here nicely, and thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one. Okay, guys, here we are again, week 7, and we are coming over here on to lesson 10, which was a couple of really nifty little tools. And there were some other tools that are in here that I thought were immensely stupid, so I left them out. So let's start by getting my big mug out of here and coming over to back to our project. So the first one that was kind of interesting, and maybe I should make this a little bigger just so you guys can see some more. So over here on the alpha map thing here, we have a thing called the onion tool. And the onion tool is kind of nifty to turn it on. And I have it set. If you come over here, you can see in the settings, onion skin settings, where I have a skin count. So the white, the border around the white piece here that we see, that's what's happening now. And then the border on the inside of the white piece is what has just happened. And then the border on the outside here is what's about to happen. So when you go down through things here in the timeline, you can kind of look at those things and see and get an idea of what's happening and whatnot. As you can see, I didn't, once it got off screen here, I didn't really pay much attention to keeping that in line. But there were some other cool things about that where you can come up to where'd the onion go. Uh, there's my onion. So we go over here to onion skin settings and we can set it to 2. You can set it to as many as you want. And then over here to 15. And that's frames between skin showings here. So when we come over and we say that, we're also going to say allow checking skin to go to the current time. And these two we're going to leave alone because I didn't really see the point in them. So let's say okay. And let's say, so here we are at frame 0, and we can see the 2 frames now, or the 2 skins that are going to happen in the next 30 frames. And as we move over from side to side, you can kind of see the progression of things. Okay? And the one other, I take that back what I said, there was one other important thing to see here about this was called a point plot. And let's bring this back to 1 skin. We can just leave it in 2 skins, that's fine. So a point plot, when we go back and forth here, sometimes, I mean, you can kind of see it down here in the low right-hand corner of the fender, that you can kind of see that the points on there revolve just a little bit. And apparently what happens is if you start to see the points moving around your subject matter too much or your mask too much, whatever you have masked, that can create some problems and some weird artifacts and other. So they felt it was necessary to put the point plot on there just so that we could see what's happening, what's going on. And the other thing was there was to click to whatever. So if I clicked on this line here, it'll go to that point in time since it's the one of the future unless I turned it off, which I may have. No, it's there. Let's turn off point plot and see if that works. Okay. Turn off the other one too. Show whole. Okay. Well, I guess that one didn't work as well as I'd hoped for it. And you can change the skin color if that's important to you. I kind of like the green personally. Uh, Maybe I'm just not doing it well enough here. Yeah, there we go. See where I was able to catch that corner and advance it down the timeline by clicking on the skin, clicking on the onion skin. But again, that made me more trouble than it's worth. For all the time that I spent over here trying to click on that, I could have easily have done this. So some goods and bads. What was the next thing that we talked about? So uh, we did talk about. Oh, that's right. That's the next cool thing to talk about. So let's come over to this side and let's get rid of our onion skins just because I don't want to. They're in the way, kind of. Everything's turned off, kind of. Okay, good. I guess some weird updates on this thing. Sometimes you have to roll over it in order to get an update. So this little guy here is the Roto Assist tool, and what it does is it will allow you to get near something. For example, if you came here and you said distance, and then you set a distance away from something of 8, or well, let's call it 4, since that's a more realistic setting for using this here. Let's zoom in on the yellow line here, and let's come down real quick and let's make another polygon. So where's our polygon tool? Rectangle, polygon. There's our another polygon. That's not what I wanted. Okay, polygon. Now we have a separate polygon. If we come up here, we have our magic thing set to, and it's turned on. So we come close to, I mean, close to it. You can see that I'm a little off here, but it's still kind of zooming in nicely. But it has its pushing point. So kind of got to be somewhat close to it in order to get it to go. Yeah. So that's kind of a nice thing. That might have been a nice tool to have over here when we were doing this, just because that was another high contrast thing. All right, so let's get rid of these for now. Uh, and I'll just, or now I guess I have to back it all the way out of it. So the next cool thing here that tool does is we can get out of the distance thing and come up here to Roto Assist multiple points. You notice how that little bullet point now is up there? So what happens is you click on a straight line once, and this might be best shown over here. Uh, Next to that, and you check it out, man. It went all the way down as far as it could go to the end of that line. And so I bet you could probably come and do the second side of it over here and close the loop. So uh, without a lot of trouble, that whole thing could have been done. I think you probably have to come back down here. Whoops. Come back down here and finish it correctly over here by moving this point. Uh, yeah, see if I move this guy over here. And we have a closed circuit without a lot of trouble. Obviously, that's probably could be made a little squarer and would work nicely. What I was talking about with that double D thing, if you were making a second polygon over the top of this that had the fades at the end, that would be the place to use that guy. So that was kind of a cool thing. Let me get us out of here. Okay, so what else? Let's not forget that all these have, uh, for example, in our polygon, we have all the ways to adjust it. We have settings and images we can do as well. Come into the settings. You got to remember what you wrote down. So I think that's cool that they put uh, some some places to put some reminders and some script in. If you are actually writing some computer script to do something, people are good enough to do that. I am not one of them, however. So, what's next? Now, we did talk a little bit about the, where did it go? It's a little arrow. Oh, this guy here. The, oh, maybe it's not that guy here. Select all points, show key points. Somewhere around here was a show of multiple key points, showing multiple points, but it kind of fell into the publish menu, reduce points. The reduce points thing, that's straight out of Adobe Illustrator, where you can simplify your projects by taking if things got too complicated. Uh, Add and delete points. We saw that our shape box already. Super great tool. We know all about the handles and all that stuff. Show the key points. Selecting points. That's a nice one. So let's go check it out here again. Let's get rid of this polygon here and come back over to our polygon here. And let's come all the way out. Come down maybe in just a touch. So selecting all points, boom, would be the same. It's supposed to be the same as this. I don't know why it's not working. Selecting all points. Oh, because we're doing it over here. Let's try selecting all points over here, or deselecting it. There we go. So that's a handy thing too. If you're gonna, rather than to have to try and draw a marquee over the whole thing, if you were gonna do a move around, or right before you did the box, you could just hit those two icons. Boom! It's a nice uh, handy time saver. Okay, so once again, that's all one gets for $5. That's the end of lesson 10. We're going to be coming into a new way of looking at masks by luminosity, and that should be very interesting, and it's going to take me a while to get through that. So this is Wednesday, and we are more than halfway through this, so we're looking good. Uh, and I guess that's it. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Okay, well, here we are, still week 7, and we're over here to lesson 11. And it seems like as things go on, they're getting easier. So I'm going to switch over to computer here and put my face up out of the way, just so that you can see my reaction to how much fun this was to do. So here we are back with our car again, the before and after pictures. So the illuminance mask is something that's not picking the borders or something. It's reacting to a color or a sheen or something like that, depending upon what kind of color space that you're working in. So the project here is to get the color that we added to this car off of the back window. So we start that by coming over here and we are saying, come up to add a tool. And we're going to come over here to the mask is, and we're going to say wand. And I'm sure that's short for magic wand because it kind of is. And let's start by hooking the picture up to that. And then we're going to put the wand image in the back. And you can see that it's already just because it happened to be right there, it already has isolated some of this window out. I mean, it's pretty ugly. There's still some stuff to do. And there's different color spaces that can be worked in here. Uh, Luminance, the HLF color space. I think we're just going to stick with RGB, and you can work in different channels too. Like if this were for some reason a red sign or a red license plate or something like that, you could even isolate the channels as to which red, green, blue, or the alpha channel you wanted to work in. Um, the other cool thing about this is the range. So as you can see, this range is turned all the way down right now. In fact, I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger so we can get an idea of what's happening here. So this represents that. And so the range is going to increase uh, or decrease the sensitivity of it rather. So it sees more of the window, and almost had to bring it all the way up, which is not going to be that great of a thing. So, uh, and then this, you can soften the edges on this if you want to. In this case, I don't think we needed to really. Uh, if you wanted to do a soft edge around here, we're talking about something like 0.02 or 0.002 to just ease it a bit. Again, you have this nice hard edge around here, and it looks accurate. Unless it looks so hard edge, I wouldn't change it. I would just leave it in lieu of the sharpness. But unless, I guess is what I'm saying, if it looked too sharp and it looks fake, then soften it up. Okay, so there we are, but we can't get this to here yet because there's another function that needs to happen. We need to subtract this mask from this color. So that requires yet another tool. So we gotta unhook these two guys for the moment. And let's move them out of the way. And let's move this guy in. He needs to have another tool. That other tool is called a bitmap, and it's also part of a mask that just gives you some interest, gives you some more control over this type of thing. So let's move the wand into the color here and move the bitmap down to there, and then move our other mask that we already did over to there. Okay, and then we can come over to the bitmap here. Do you remember this point where we were over here and we merged that spline out to show us the license plate? Well, this is exactly the same thing. So we're going to move that down to subtract, and voila, we have that our window. So unfortunately, I didn't have this reset all the way to the beginning. So let's come back here over to our wand and click on the selection point and animate that. So as we come down the road here, we're going to reanimate this and just to try and keep that piece in the middle here. Just kind of come over to the side, just scoot that up back over a little bit. And that's just keeping the mask in the right place here. That's all. All right. So that appears to be that. So when we move that way, that means that we just got to tweak our range down just a touch here. Maybe we'll have to move. There we go. Got to play with things a little bit here. No big deal. So let's stream it through and see how that looks with everything unselected now that we got a actual rear window in it. And hit the play button. Boom. You can actually see someone getting into their luggage into the back there. I think that's cool. And you can see kind of here when we're just looking at just the alpha of this, you can really see it uh, animating along here where we wouldn't have had to move that much, but you can see that when we moved down too much, that piece here, that when this was down too far, it changed everything and screwed everything up. So it was worth the effort to do the quick little animation on that. Okay, so that's lesson 11, the first of many luminance masking here coming up. And thanks again for watching, and we will see you guys in just a little bit. Okay, we're back and we're ready for more. More being, what are we doing this time? We're going to do lesson 12, other Luma math techniques, which is very clever and still used in our ongoing thing here. So let me shuffle things around a little bit here. And here we are. I don't know if that's the right place for me. Maybe just get my face out of here altogether. We're going to be needing to see up there. Okay, so what we are trying to do here is, let me just put this over here for now. We want, you see how the chrome here on the Porsche emblems and the 911 emblem and the over the radiator are silver, and over here they're blue and silver. Well, let's fix that. Okay, that's cheap. That's cheap and chintzy. So I need a little bit more working room down here, just so that we can see what's going on, and we can start our little quest here by adding two color things. We need four new nodes altogether. The first two, which are out of the color batch. So we'll come up here, and we're going to start with a color corrector, because what we want to do is, since this is a Luma mask, what we want to do rather than a uh, geometric mask, we're trying to isolate this color here, or at least turn it so that we can get it to be the alpha channel. And then the next color we need, or next color node we need, excuse me, is what do we need? We need the curves. So we need to be able to, I'm going to scooch this around a little bit. So the first thing here is, let's hook up color. Whoops. Always do that. You need to hook up color. And we need to hook up the curves. And let's make the left view the curves. And let's first start going over here, giving the color corrector a double click, which brings it up in the inspector. And let's take all the color out of that. Okay? That'll make it much easier for us to separate things out when we're just separating black and white. So the next part of this little deal here is we're coming over here to the curves, and without making any other adjustments other than this one, we're going to click on the line there and make two adjustment points. We're going to bring this one up here, and we're going to bring this one down here, and you can see, well, maybe we'll try this one at a time. How about that? Bring this one over here, and we're going to bring this one down here. Maybe not quite so steep. I thought, okay, there we go. So as I'm adjusting the bottom here, basically I'm just more shadow, less shadow, more. It's just like the bottom of the color wheel. So what I kind of want to figure out is where this is going to be the best. So we don't have to worry about the road, because that's not a part of the blue car, the blueness on the car. So what do we want to change? Do we want to go all the way off? Do we want to leave a little bit left for the reflection on the car? Because I think that would give it some nice depth. And so did the teacher for this. Won't overdo it there. All right, so that's looking pretty good. So the next thing we got to do is we got to get, let's take this out of here. We need to deselect everything first off, and we need to get ourselves a merge node in here. And where are we going to merge that merge node to? First, we're going to put the wand in the foreground. So that means the green arrow. We want that color that we had just done, and that should be over here in merge node. Now let's move that here so we can see what's going on. And come our color curves and move it to that one. So we now see that rear window that we went through all the trouble doing with the with the magic wand here, and then our polygon is the blue. So what we need to do is we need to have that on the top, and then we need to convert all this into a transferable method here. I'm not doing very well keeping this organized. Trying. Yeah, it's better than nothing, I suppose. Uh, first, first off, let's do this and just move the whole kit and caboodle over for touch. Okay, so we need the next thing we need is another node out of the color pile, and I think they call that a boolean something or other. Color boolean, channel boolean. And so the merge is going to go from there into that part of the channel boolean. Okay. And then that part of the channel boolean is going to go right into the bitmap chink. But so why we have the channel boolean open, and it's all the same to it here. Since this is black and white, we can come down to alpha and tell it whatever to grab, red, green, blue, whatever. It doesn't matter. FG foreground. So we can call it red and say FG foreground. And I think when we click on that, that brings our Chrome over somewhat. Not as nicely as I was hoping for it to, but I think that may be back in my curves. Maybe we can play around with the curves a little bit here. Pretty steep. All right, so it's better. We certainly got the color to change, and when we come over here and we're still looking at the curves, let's look at the curves on it though. How is it displaying? Well, it's better. It's much better than it was. We're starting to have ourselves a real thing here. Okay, so that's kind of the name of that tune here. So just to recap here, media in, and we're connected to the first things we did here. Remember polygon around the car, changed it blue. B-spline around the license plate. Remember the loop around it with no uh, adjustment tails on it. Down to the bitmap, which used to be a merge, and the bitmap was part of the next thing in from the wand. So we needed the wand to be able to come in because we needed the bitmap in order to um, subtract the color from the windscreen. So the third one we bring in, we separate everything by black and white, uh, and then we give that black and white an absolute value on the curves, run it through another merge and into the channel boolean. I don't know why they just don't call it a channel distributor or something like that. And then we tell the alpha channel to pick everything out of the gray. I wonder if we tried another color, what that would look like. I don't think it's going to make any difference, do you? There's it off, so we know it's at least working. Yeah, I see. I'm still seeing a lot of blue down here. Let's get in tight on that and see. Hmm. Well, I think that's a problem for another day, or a problem that's above my pay grade. All right, so there we have it. That's the last one for the day. Another kind of alternate thing. I understand everything that's going on. I just don't quite understand why I can't get the Chrome on these things to line up better. Anyway, like I said, a problem for another day. Sorry to bore you with the ongoing I'm going to solve it on camera program. So anyway, thanks again. We will see you tomorrow, which is Thursday, and we'll finish this up and we're going to start on the other one and get everything turned in probably Sunday afternoon sometime. This is going to be a full week of a lot of stuff. This was a lot to fit into 1 week. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. All right, welcome back to week 7, and we're almost done with our fusion stuff here. We've been doing masking and rotoscoping and all kinds of good stuff like that. And today we're going to talk about some more masking and how that fits in. First of which we're going to be masking by color, and that's using the color qualifier, which we have been through together before. So I'm just going to touch on it real quick reminder, and then we're going to move on here to 14, which is saving masks, importing masks, and using them in other places, like we do our masks on the Fusion page, and then can apply them over into the color grading page, which is very cool, by the way. So anyway, let me jump out of here and get my face out, and let's move over to our program and get it going. So where are we? We are in the Fusion page. Let's get the uh, this out of the way here. This is the color qualifier, and the idea is with a single eyedropper drop here, we can sample some color, and then it will call it itself a mask. So down here, let's watch where the saturation and things go, the hue, the saturation, and the color. When I click on the stripe in the middle of the road here, because I thought it'd be a fun, easy way to do this. So 1, 2, 3, click. So it captured the hue, the saturation, and the luminance. Let's make sure that that actually worked. So let's come over here to the gain and turn the gain up to red, pretty high on the red. So that gives you an idea of what's going on here. Let me see if I can get a better picture of that. So it's got a lot of noise and stuff in here, and we can come over back to this and mess around with all the denoise and the shadows and the midtones and over to page 2. More importantly, on page 2, I believe, excuse me, page 1, we can clean things up. It's like, so the white in here isn't really the white cleanup, it's the black cleanup. We want to clean the black out of it so that it makes that color a little bit more. Oh, I'm sorry, it's the other way around. God, so much to remember. There we go. See how that really cleans that up nicely there? And you got to find the spot, otherwise it bleeds all over the road. And that's just one of the many different types of adjustments that can be made. Over here, for example, that same thing can happen with an eyedropper on the side of, uh, do you want to add to what it sees, or do you want to feather it out of what it sees? Do you want to take away from what it sees? Or do you want to resample it too with the picker? So that's the long and the short of that, pretty much. Like I said, we've seen this before. So let's jump out of here, do a reset of all grades and nodes, back to where we were. Wish it would actually do a reset. And let's do our picker, or our picker. Let's fit our car back in there and jump back into the Fusion page here and do that more interesting portion of our video. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pick one of our tools. And then we can right click on that tool, and this will all become apparent in a minute, and say settings, and then say save as. So what we have done here effectively, save as, I'm just going to save it as polygon 1. Save, you notice I've already done this before when I was practicing. It'll just ask me if I want to replace it. You want to replace it? Yes, let's replace it. So that is now saved. Okay, and if we add, for example, another mask, a polygon mask, just for fun. And so if we put that polygon mask in here over in this viewer, there's nothing. It's just a mask sitting out there waiting to be told what to do. So we can right click on that one, go over to settings and say load. And it'll bring us back up here to the polygon setting. Click on it, you say open, and there it is. These are two different things now here. So if you had another reason to have another mask in here, how handy would that be? Not only did it copy the, if you stay looking at this here, not only did it copy the masking, but it copied the rotoscoping as well. So if we play this long down the line here, that saves an awful lot of work if we had more work with a mask to do. Okay, so the next thing they did on here, I'm going to just kill that. The next thing that they did on here was, I'm going to just move this up a touch. Um, or maybe not. What do we want to do here? Yeah, the bitmap. So we have media ins and we have media outs. So if I want to add, we can add another media out. Now, that said that there was a very convoluted thing that he tried to teach us, or he did teach us, but it was just a long way around the barn of taking all the stuff that we had done, turned it into, saved it, turned it into a series of PNG files, and we had to group the PNG files together and render it out and blah 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 blah. But all of that is completely eclipsed, and that's the point of all this work is to make the future work easier. So, and like I said, all this completely eclipsed by this one movement here. So we have now come over here and come down and go over to the IO tool, and let's make us another media out. Boom. So with this media out, we're going to come over here and we're going to connect it to the bitmap, which houses everything we've done. As you can go through our 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 flow here, our flow chart, our circuit in my mind, and it comes out here. Notice that it's pretty much all the masking here that's already done without having to come into the merge yet. Okay. So again, when we play it along here, this will all be just like the perfect mask. Okay. So the other thing we got to do real quick before we switch over to the color page is we got to come over here and give this guy a double click and turn it off because we don't want any of the color correction coming from this into the color page. In fact, that's kind of my motto with the color page here is color correction is my thing, is what I love to do. And so I think that working in the color page for correcting color is where it's at because this is where all your tools are. So let's come over here and make, just for fun, this is how easy it is. Let's add a serial node here. Add node. Okay, Alt S. There. Easy way to add a serial node here. So let's, in this serial node, um, let's turn everything purple. Let's really turn everything purple. See how much we like that. Because this is going to be cool here. So this is nothing to it. This is just us assigning a color. And now we're going to come over here and we're going to add a source, which is that source we made that media out. We just got through doing here back in the Fusion page. Okay, that's this. All right, let's get that out of there. Back to media out here. Pink, pink. Okay, back to the color page. Watch how simple this is. Link, and we're done. That's all there is to it. Why mess around with all of that? Oh, it was 10 minutes of what was that thing I was supposed to do again? What was the rendering bit? Oh no, let me just make a node here and fix it. One of the things we love about the nodes is from time to time they will just really take the workload out of it, which is the whole point of using any of the DaVinci products. The keyboard, the color keyboards, all that stuff, that's the point of making things more usable and faster to use. The faster you're able to do your job, the more money you will probably make. Okay, so that's, we got our purple guy there now, and so I'm going to come over here to color. I'm going to reset everything back, and I'm going to see you guys back here in just a little bit to do 14 and 15 and call it a day after that. All right, thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Okay, and welcome back. And we are just about to finish up our masking and tracking and rotoscoping module here. And we are down here at lesson 15, mask tracking in Fusion here. And this was not an easy thing to learn. There was a lot of room for error here. And the only way that you get better at this is practice because it's a little bit convoluted. So let me get my face out of the computer and bring this up. So the goal here is, as you can see, I've turned the B-spline back on here, and that was the subtracting the color from the license plate, something that we did early on in this module. So what we got to do first is we got to track the car. So if we watch, for example, we watch down the car, we can see it on over here sneaking up, right? But then we also see it, the license plate itself sneaking off screen at about 31, frame 31 or 2. It's finishes getting off screen. So let's start by getting the tracking done of the back end of the car. Since the license plate leaves the screen, we can't really track it, so we're going to track the back of the car. So we're going to come down here to tracking, use a planar tracker, and we're going to get that hooked up down here with the, oops, that hooked up here. And we're going to show that here on the left side of the screen. And so there's some things we got to do first. So like I said, it would be, one could certainly be forgiven for thinking that you were going to track the license plate, but since the license plate leaves the screen, it's halfway through. We got to find another point of reference here. Oops. Okay, so we're going to take this square of high contrast areas and get a little bit of the top of the license plate frames, but we have like the chrome and the green, and all this is fairly high contrast stuff. We have a little bit of the tail lights here. So then we come over here, as you, of course, since this is highlighted, we're going to be able to see it in the inspector. We got to tell it what kind of tracker we're using here. So we're not just using a single point. We have highlighted an entire area for it to get comfortable with. And that is called hybrid point area tracking. And then we just simply come over here to this set of controls that we've seen before and give it its thing. Okay, so we're about halfway there, kind of. So the next thing we got to do is with our B-spline here, we got to take it uh, out of the mix here and separate it out, because what we got to do now is we got to hit that B-spline and tell it to get its information from the tracker now. Okay, so and don't let me forget here to make sure that all this is done correctly here too, because right now there's a couple things that are incorrect about this whole lineup that I kept making mistakes on. So I'm hoping that this last time doing it in front of you will help. Okay, so B-spline, we are separated out here, and we no longer have the ability to tell it to subtract its blue from it. So let's get it to track first, and that requires a new transformation tool. Transform, planar transform here, and we just hook that up, simple as that. And we're going to come over and tell it now, by software, not by drawing a line, but by software, to, with our information data we've created here, to hook it up with the V-spline. That's what this little guy here is all about. So we right click here to track spline. Okay, so we're just trying, so excuse me, connect to planar tracker 1 down in the low left corner, and then to track it. So we supposedly, you see the orange thing there? We supposedly now have that sorted out. Okay, so what's next here? We gotta figure out how to get this information. Uh, so that goes to here now. Okay, so we got that correct. That was a thing here that was holding me up, and it didn't say anything about it in the instructions. So somehow when I was moving things in and out of here, that was a problem. Let's also hook our polygon back up to this bitmap while we're at it. And so now we got our color back. We're gonna, how do we get this information here down to the merge since there's nowhere else to hook anything up here? So let's disconnect this and let's add another bitmap to that. That's what they're there for. Just ways of hooking stuff together. So let's hook this bitmap to that blue part. We're going to hook this one to the yellow part, right? Right. And then we're going to hook this down here. Then in the bitmap, I have that correct? Looks correct. And here, subtract this. So once again, I'm missing something here. Okay, I'm going to push pause and I'm going to go figure that out and I'll be right back. Okay, I think I've solved it where it was these, see this little guy here? I think this needs to go in as a full, and that looks like that's the, get rid of that. So there's our problem. We had this hooked up to that as a piece of alpha rather than the entire thing. So we're looking good here now, thankfully. That was scaring me a little bit there. I keep missing things. So we can see now that we're tracking our bitmap, kind of. Might take a minute to catch up. And then we have apparently gotten everything done that we need to get done here. As far as the finished photograph, or as far as the finished clip goes. So let's bring it all the way back and play it and see if it looks. How's it look? Yeah, there we go. Tracking pretty nice there once it gets by it. Didn't remember if I had to go. Smart rendering. There we go. Can't forget smart rendering. Okay, so let's twirl up the inspector. Bring it over here in the middle. Bring it down here and have a good look at our finished product here. So I've got everything twirled off. I might do, yeah, that looks nice. You can see the reflection in the top a little better now with the shading. It looks better with, not quite there, but we still got some color on the Porsche and over the chrome grille here. So let's try coming over here to the color corrector and coming out of a less chromy color. Ooh, maybe that solved our whole thing because it's been bothering me for a while here. I want to, aha. So we still got a little bit of the opposite color, but not nearly as bad. So we turned it over into a little bit lighter purple, just a little bit, or lighter red. But we still see these marks under here, and I just cannot figure out for the life of me how to get that out. So purple here is pretty nice, and you don't see a lot of it at any rate. And I'm going to call that pretty well good for today on that one. Let's fit that back in. Whew! Okay, we got it done. Those are all the masks. I think I might, before I do anything else, I might try to recreate this whole thing from scratch. Yeah, that's probably a good exercise to really get this in my head well. All right. Well, thanks for watching all of these. The number 15 down here on our list of things to do will not be included in this set of things because mask points and fusion is all about what the mask points and fusion is all going to be all about what the next whole module is going to be masking and whatnot like that in the beauty infusion. So pretty cool. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon. Okay, so here is our making of video that you guys love so much to do. And so I'm just going to jump through here and get as much of it done as I possibly can, as quickly as I can. I'm not going to be doing anything special for this assembly, just the standard part. And let's start here, shall we? So we got to get going. We're going to come up here, and this, as usual, is my uh, media pool thing that hooks directly to the OBS file where everything is dumped. And so we got to bring all these guys down. That's what we're using to work with. Do I want to change these? I don't think so. Let's have a look at the metadata of it. Hmm. Oh, here we go. 30 foot a second. That's good. That's just fine. Get rid of that metadata thing. Okay, so one more deal here is we got to Control A and right click and make us a new timeline. We're only going to do this once, so I'm not going to worry about it. And we're going to jump over here. Make us up a little sign. I think we've seen all these. It's time for some new signs. Oh, vertical slide. That might be nice. And double click to come over here to the inspector. I'm just going to keep it simple. Uh, hmm. All right, we got to fix this before we try to screw around with it any further. Let's get the inspector out of the way, get this up, get these, and let's pull this out just a touch. Now I think that that lines up correctly with, yes, it does, with our black screen. Having a rough day here. I can't seem to get a lot of stuff to work. That last module was not pretty. Okay, let's get this out of here, but it's not going to work. All right, let's try that then. Go post. Hmm. Okay. My favorite little color, maybe. All right, good enough. Get you out of the way. Get you kind of workable. Let's see how we're doing. Hello, everybody. Not great. So, okay, up here, don't ever forget to go and hit T for trim. That's the way that allows us to use our ins and outs so nicely. Let's get this up to where we enter nicely here. Just need a little bit. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to week 7. Boy, we've gotten through quite a lot of stuff. Okay, moving on. Gotta leave a little tail. Check it. Back to week 7. Glad to have you. Give it a dissolve. On to the next one. In, do out first. In first. I just love how smooth this works. That was a nice bit of appreciate. Yeah. Have a good one. Okay, here we are. Okay. Next one. Thanks again. All right. Good. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome. Killing it. See you in the next one. Okay, good. Not understanding this right now. I had to come and do that with the mouse for some reason. See you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Okay. Next one. Thanks a lot. Okay. Maybe I should stop starting my sentences with the word okay. Guys, in just a little bit. Okay. Hmm. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. All right. Welcome back to week One of the things that bothers me about this is you can't control how fast it dies, even with the length of things. So where are we here? We're at 245. We end at 250, so that's a 5-second transformation. I don't know what else to do. That's pretty much the name. So we come over here once again. We check everything. If it's got a white spot here on on a cut, that means had a transition assigned to it, and we're pretty much ready to go here. Come in and I didn't do any real full frame stuff. Let's come back over here to that. Maybe over to home. Roll over here and see. See how bad my color is, if it's bad at all. It doesn't look too bad here. I'm just going to use my little clock here as a little. I think we'll leave it the way it was. Yeah, that's terrible. We're out. Right out of the camera. Pretty good. Okay, sound. Why are we? Five seconds into that. Let's check the sound. Oops. Sound. So far, but this week we're going to start with rotoscoping. I think I'm going to trim them in DaVinci up here, and I've chosen this in lieu of some of the last. So we're trying to get here introduction to fusion things where we're at here, where we're better, peaking at negative 10. More special. I'm going to add just a touch more. There is, however, on this list, while I'm on that track, a couple of classes we won't be doing. So let's come down and talk about that here real quick. I think it's safe to say, so since I'm sitting in the same place in front of the same microphone, windows and that we're okay all the way through it. So let's come over here and we're going to call this drop that on the desktop. MP4 file. So we could do this in 30 frames. Let's see how it comes out, just for fun. Make sure that we got everything else aligned to MP4 268. At 29 frames. Head over to the queue, and thanks for watching. You've just seen the making of rotoscoping module. All right, thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.